Hey guys, welcome back. Today, I'm going to explain a Korean horror movie that created a huge sensation after its release in 2026 and became one of the highest-grossing Korean horror films ever made. The story begins in the middle of the night. A young couple is camping beside a lake. The girl goes to grab some beer when she suddenly hears a strange sound coming from the water, like two rocks crashing together. Almost as if she is being hypnotized, she starts walking toward the lake. Her boyfriend notices and immediately shouts for her to stop. He runs after her and spots a dark figure standing in the water. As he gets closer, he suddenly hears his girlfriend calling him from behind. Confused and terrified, he turns around. If his girlfriend is standing on the shore, then who is the figure in the water? Before he can react, the shadow disappears. A second later, a horrifying figure rises from beneath the lake and drags the young man into the darkness. Days later, a strange image appears on an online Street View map of an area known as Salmukji Reservoir. The image shows a terrifying figure standing in the water. The photo quickly goes viral, causing panic across the internet. Even though it's the weekend, the map company is forced to hold an emergency meeting. Experts confirm that the image is not a software glitch. What's even stranger is that the company has no original data or photographs from that location. In other words, they never uploaded the image themselves. The company immediately removes the photo, but the director orders a new survey of the area to avoid legal problems. A team leader named Suin volunteers for the job. However, she has a personal reason for going. A few days earlier, Captain Yu visited the same reservoir and mysteriously disappeared. Suin is determined to find out what happened to him. Her ex-boyfriend, Kyung-tae, warns her not to go because the place feels dangerous, but Suin refuses to back down. Joining her on the mission are two junior employees, Sung-bin and Se-jong, along with two cameramen, Kyung-tae and Kang-jun. As they travel toward the reservoir, Se-jong becomes fascinated by the local ghost stories. The group begins discussing the recent disappearance of the camping couple. Se-jong explains that water ghosts are considered more dangerous than ordinary spirits because they lure people into the water before taking their lives. Even the name of the reservoir sounds ominous. According to local legends, it means the path between life and death. Rumors claim the area was once an ancient graveyard. When the reservoir was built, the graves were never removed. Instead, everything was simply submerged underwater. People believe that is why the place is filled with dark energy. Despite all the creepy stories, Kang-jun laughs them off. He proudly claims that he once worked as a rescue diver for the Korean Navy and can swim faster than any ghost. While everyone else is talking, Suin remains unusually quiet and serious. When the team finally arrives, they encounter something strange almost immediately. While looking for a parking spot, their vehicle accidentally crashes into a small stone tower. On top of it sits a bowl of rice, as if it is being used for worship or some kind of protective ritual. The moment the tower cracks, an elderly woman suddenly appears and begins yelling at them. She stares at Suin and says she once faced death in these waters herself. Even more strangely, she somehow knows that Suin is searching for someone. The old woman hands Suin a stone and tells her to place it on the tower while making a wish. According to local tradition, travelers place stones on sacred towers and pray. If the tower remains standing after the stone is added, the wish is believed to come true. The atmosphere suddenly becomes uncomfortable. One by one, everyone places a stone on the tower. When Suin steps forward to place hers, a black hand suddenly emerges from inside the tower and grabs her wrist. She freezes in fear. But when she blinks, the hand is gone. It is as if nothing happened. The old woman coldly tells them to continue before turning around and walking away. Trying to hide her fear, Suin tells everyone to focus on work first and complete the ritual on their way back. As the team unloads their equipment, Suin notices a styrofoam box crawling with insects. It turns out Kyung-tae secretly brought fishing bait. At the same time, the two junior employees begin preparing an inflatable boat. Se-jong admits that she runs a horror YouTube channel and hopes to film ghost-related content while they are there. Annoyed by everyone's casual attitude, Suin stops them. "We're not here for a vacation. Finish the job first, then do whatever you want." The task seems simple. They only need to photograph a 3-kilometer route, which should take around 2 hours. But before they can begin, they discover that the GPS signal has completely disappeared. As the team worries about what to do, someone unexpectedly appears. It's Captain Yu. Everyone is shocked. He calmly explains that the same thing happened during his previous visit. Then he takes the GPS device and walks into the water. As he moves farther out, the GPS signal suddenly returns. Suin is overjoyed to see him alive after being missing for so long. When she asks where he has been, Captain Yu simply smiles and says he'll explain later. The team continues its work. Soon, strange things begin happening. Sejong discovers markings along the shoreline that resemble writing found on tombstones. At the same time, their cameras seem to detect something unusual deep beneath the water. Meanwhile, the two cameramen decide to finish their work quickly so they can spend the evening fishing. Kyung-tae takes the 360-degree camera and walks ahead while Suin monitors the live feed. Suddenly, Suin notices a dark shadow on the screen. She immediately tells him to step back. The shadow vanishes. A few moments later, it appears again. This time, Suin urgently tells him to return. But Kyung-tae assumes it's just a technical error and keeps moving forward. As he approaches the shore, he spots a dark figure running at incredible speed along the edge of the reservoir. Terrified, he moves closer to investigate, but when he arrives, there is nothing there. Then the water begins to ripple. Kyung-tae notices something impossible. His reflection is moving, but his shadow remains completely still beneath the water. At the same moment, Suin sees a ghostly woman standing directly behind him on the camera feed. She screams through the walkie-talkie. Unfortunately, Kyung-tae switches it off. A second later, what looks like a severed woman's head drops onto him from above. The shock sends him falling into the water. Suin and the others rush to the scene. They see long black hair floating across the surface. Moments later, Kyung-tae emerges from the water, shaking with fear. Back at camp, Kang-joon laughs and assumes the entire thing was a prank, but Kyung-tae swears he saw a woman's head fall on him. After reviewing the footage, Sejong believes they accidentally recorded part of a ritual used to summon angry water spirits. The situation is becoming increasingly dangerous. Frightened by everything that has happened, Suin decides to stop the survey and leave. However, the company director calls her and insists that the job must be completed that very day. Too many people have already disappeared around the reservoir. Reluctantly, Suin agrees to continue. For now, the team decides to wait until morning for additional equipment to arrive before continuing their investigation. Kyung-tae has no intention of waiting around any longer. Just then, Captain Yu says they need to recover the GPS device that fell into the water before it gets damaged. Reluctantly, Kyung-tae and Kang-joon head back toward the lake. Meanwhile, Suin receives a call from her ex-boyfriend Ki-tae. He tells her he's bringing additional equipment to help the team. During the conversation, Suin admits that something feels very wrong about Captain Yu's behavior. Suddenly, Captain Yu appears behind her. When Suin asks him about the recent disappearances, he avoids the question and simply says that the wish he made at the stone tower has finally come true. As darkness falls, Sejong begins using a ghost detection app for content on her horror YouTube channel. At the same time, Captain Yu and Kyung-tae suddenly disappear, and all communication with them is lost. While searching for them, Suin hears the familiar sound of stones striking each other. Almost hypnotized, she slowly walks toward the lake. Luckily, something on the ground snaps her out of the trance. It is a memory card belonging to Kyung-tae. When the team checks the footage on a laptop, they make a disturbing discovery. The video shows Captain Yu underwater, destroying a stone tower hidden beneath the lake. Before they can process what they've seen, Ki-tae calls again. His voice is shaking. He reveals that Captain Yu actually died in a hospital the previous night. The moment he says it, the call abruptly disconnects. Meanwhile, Kang-joon and Sung-bin are skipping stones near the water when they suddenly hear countless stones splashing into the lake from every direction. The endless sound leaves them frozen in fear. Then something flies out of the darkness and smashes their only source of light. When they shine their flashlights toward it, they realize it isn't a stone. It's a dead crow. At that exact moment, the ghost box inside Sejong's bag switches on by itself. A distorted voice comes through the speaker. "Have you all arrived? How many people are there?" The group is horrified. Angrily, Kang-joon grabs the device and shouts into it. "Who are you? Are you dead underwater? Did you throw that crow?" There is no answer. Only one chilling sentence repeats again and again. "I died because of you." Suin immediately turns the device off and orders everyone to split into two groups to search for the missing members. Meanwhile, Captain Yu leads Kyung-tae deep into the forest. At one point, Kyung-tae looks behind him and realizes the captain has vanished. Moments later, he sees him standing far away in the middle of a frozen section of the lake. Then the sound of stones returns. Kyung-tae notices the shadow of a long-haired girl drowning beneath the water. As he turns around, a horrifying face suddenly rises from the lake. Countless ghostly heads surround him from every direction. At the same time, Sungbin and Sejong use their ghost detection app and discover Captain Yu standing beside another stone tower. Elsewhere, Suin accidentally wanders into the lake while searching through the forest. Just then, Kang-jun arrives. The beam of their flashlights reveals a horrifying sight. Kyung-tae's body is hanging from a tree. Kang-jun breaks down in tears and lowers his brother's corpse. The shock drives him nearly insane. Moments later, Sungbin and Sejong arrive, claiming they were attacked by a dark figure near the stone tower. Kang-jun refuses to call the police. Instead, he becomes obsessed with taking revenge on Captain Yu. Then, trembling with fear, Suin reveals the truth. Captain Yu died in the hospital the previous night. Everyone is stunned. If Captain Yu died yesterday, then who has been walking around with them all day? Sejong believes the water ghost killed Kyung-tae and used Captain Yu's appearance to trick them. Just then, the sound of stones echoes once more. Captain Yu emerges from the darkness. Furious, Kang-jun chases after him. The captain runs straight into the lake and disappears beneath the water. Without hesitation, Kang-jun dives in after him, but when he catches up, he discovers it isn't Captain Yu. It's a rotting corpse. Before he can escape, the water ghost grabs him and drags him into the depths. Terrified, Suin and the remaining survivors run back to their vehicle. On the way, Sejong notices something impossible. The stone tower they saw earlier has completely vanished. The group quickly starts the car and tries to escape, but the map application begins malfunctioning. No matter which direction they drive, they keep returning to the same place. Eventually, they become trapped at a crossroads. Suddenly, a hand slams against the car window. Everyone screams, but it's not a ghost, it's Kite. Looking panicked, he asks, "What are you all doing here?" The sight of Kite instantly breaks the illusion surrounding them. They realize the truth. The lake is directly in front of them. If they had driven only a little farther, the car would have plunged into the water. Kite explains that his own vehicle is also stranded nearby. Remembering the old woman's warning that nobody has ever escaped the lake alive, he suggests rebuilding the stone tower and making another wish. But Sungbin refuses. He calls it superstition and argues that they should light a fire and wait for help instead. At that moment, Suin asks everyone what they originally wished for when placing stones on the tower. Sungbin admits he wished for wealth. Sejong says she was too frightened to make any wish at all. Suddenly, Soon's face turns pale. Her wish has already come true. She wished to see Captain Yu again. Captain Yu's wish had also come true. That's when Suin realizes the horrifying rule of the lake. Only wishes involving the dead are granted. The mysterious old woman's daughter had died years ago. She encouraged travelers to place stones on the tower so she could continue seeing her daughter's spirit. Captain Yu had broken the underwater tower, but later died anyway. The only chance of escape now is to find the tower and destroy it completely. Unfortunately, it has vanished. Sungbin believes this is merely another trick by the spirits to lure them toward the water. As tensions rise, Suin and Kite leave briefly to get supplies from the car. Left alone, Sejong tearfully confesses something. She had been to see a real ghost at least once in her life. Sungbin suddenly becomes suspicious. He believes Suin might be a ghost herself, or perhaps possessed by one. After all, she convinced everyone to stay at the lake and later told the group to split up. Sejong urges him to wait until sunrise, but Sungbin points at the car clock. It's still showing 1:30 a.m. The time hasn't changed at all. It's as if time itself has stopped. Terrified, the two decide to flee on their own. They start the car and drive away, abandoning Suin and Kite. Suin and Kite chase after them, but it's too late. As Sungbin speeds down the road, a wave of water crashes onto the windshield. A terrifying face suddenly appears outside the window. Panicking, Sungbin accelerates even faster. Miraculously, they reach what appears to be a highway. There, they encounter a police officer. Sungbin begs him to rescue Suin and Kite. The officer claims his patrol car has a dead battery and asks for assistance. He then gets into their vehicle to take a statement. While writing, he casually asks, "What time did you arrive? How many people are there?" The words send chills down Sejong's spine. They are the exact same phrases repeated by the ghost box earlier. Slowly, the officer turns around. His eyes glow blood red. Outside the car, Sungbin turns on the headlights and finally sees the horrifying truth. There is no highway. They are parked beside the same black lake. They have never escaped. When Sungbin tries to open the doors, they won't budge. At that moment, the police officer transforms into a horrifying ghost. Meanwhile, Suin discovers Sejong's lost tablet in the forest. The device reveals the location of the missing stone tower on the opposite side of the lake. Then, Sejong's desperate cries come through the walkie-talkie. Following the signal, Suin and Kitai discover an abandoned vehicle. Sejong is hiding underneath it. Suin rushes forward to help her, but Kitai suddenly pulls her back. A second later, Sungbin reverses the car. The vehicle crushes Sejong beneath it. As Sungbin falls out of the vehicle, his neck twists unnaturally, killing him instantly. With no time left, Kitai places Suin onto a small boat nearby and heads toward the tower. As they cross the lake, Suin begins wondering how Kitai knew exactly where the boat was. Then, something terrifying happens. Kitai transforms into Captain Yu's ghost. The spirit blames Suin for everything. According to him, this mission was originally her responsibility, and because of her decisions, he died. After delivering the accusation, the ghost vanishes. Immediately, ghostly hands emerge from the lake and drag Suin underwater. Kitai dives in after her. Beneath the surface lies a horrifying graveyard. Hundreds of corpses rest at the bottom of the lake like an army of the dead. Kitai manages to free Suin from vines that have trapped her underwater and pushes her toward the surface, but his own leg becomes tangled. Unable to escape, he drowns. Back on shore, Suin desperately attacks the stone tower. As it begins to crumble, a terrifying spirit emerges from inside and tries to pull her into the structure. Using all her strength, Suin pulls the rope attached to the tower. The bowl of rice on top suddenly turns black and shatters. The entire tower collapses. Moments later, Kitai emerges from the water and finds Suin sitting silently on the shore. Several days later, life appears to return to normal. Kitai goes back to work and tries to forget everything that happened. But then the company director reveals something that freezes his blood. Captain Yu never died in a hospital. He actually drowned in the lake long before that. His body was only taken to the hospital afterward for paperwork. That means Suin's theory was completely wrong. Captain Yu was never freed by destroying the tower. At that moment, Suin arrives at the office and says she doesn't want to stay home alone. Kitai decides not to tell her the truth, fearing it will only traumatize her further. But his own mind is falling apart. Nothing about the nightmare makes sense. Then suddenly, black water begins spreading across the office floor. Within seconds, the entire office disappears. Kitai finds himself standing once again in the middle of the frozen Salmukji Lake, as if he never escaped. Standing before him is Suin, but this is not the Suin he knows. Smiling coldly, she reveals her true form as an evil spirit and says, "Never trust anything you see here." And with that chilling final twist, the movie comes to an end.